Tonight, inside the gold mining town where the Ebola outbreak likely started, why are crisis pregnancy centers saying they can rule out ectopic pregnancy? Trouble getting weight loss drugs covered by insurance. Here's what to know opinion. How I use public radio to recruit 20,000 participants for a peer-reviewed study on walking breaks, Stat Plus. Pharmalittle. We're reading about an FDA commissioner candidate, Germany's plans for drug prices, and more how to protect yourself from ticks. FDA finally analyzed its own youth tobacco data, Friends Matter, and Family, too, Stat Plus. What an abandoned heart failure trial says about breakthrough, devices that don't reach patients want to feel happier at work. Take a 5-minute walk, Stat Plus. Ophthalmology venture grabs investors' attention, raises $330 million. Red Cross volunteers work to combat heat-related deaths at Phoenix mobile homes. Opinion. New human embryo editing advances require tough conversations on ethical boundaries. Stat Plus. Want high-quality generic drugs. One expert has ideas on how consumers can trust their supply. A letter sent by worried staff shows why maternity care is still failing too many families. A look at the science that's been lost on long COVID 8 things to know about the gut microbiome and keeping yours healthy. Stat Plus. FDA drops enforcement against Whoop after it tweaks blood pressure feature. Justice Department announces hundreds of charges in multi-billion-dollar healthcare fraud crackdown. And Stat Plus. Lilly's retatrutide has been offered to a single person via compassionate use program. We start with inside the gold mining town where the Ebola outbreak likely started. Inside the gold mining town where the Ebola outbreak likely started. Inside the gold mining town where the Ebola outbreak likely started. MONGBWALU, Democratic Republic of Congo. Joseph Mute witnessed a string of mysterious deaths in Mongwalu long before the Congolese government declared an Ebola outbreak. A neighborhood leader in the town, Mute said that the characteristic feature of these deaths was the presence of blood. They had blood in the nose, blood in the mouth, he said, standing on an unpaved road in the Shuni neighborhood. A gold mining town of about 130,000 people located in Ituri province, Mongwalu is one of the epicenters of eastern Congo's Ebola outbreak. The outbreak is believed to have started here, according to the World Health Organization, but this has yet to be fully confirmed. From Mongwalu, Ebola likely spread across Ituri, including to its capital, Bunia, a city of more than 1 million. Confirmed cases have also appeared in the Congolese provinces of North Kivu and South Kivu, as well as in Uganda, which shares a long border with Ituri. At first, it wasn't clear what was causing the deaths. Mongwalu's population is made up largely of poor gold panners, and diseases are common among this marginalized group. Some mute sigh. Why are crisis pregnancy centers saying they can rule out ectopic pregnancy? Why are crisis pregnancy centers saying they can rule out ectopic pregnancy? Why are crisis pregnancy centers saying they can rule out ectopic pregnancy? On Mother's Day, the Trump administration launched the website Moms.gov, which directs expecting parents who are navigating difficult or unexpected pregnancies to crisis pregnancy centers around the country. Many centers offer pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, STD/STI testing and treatment, parenting support, childbirth classes, medical referrals, and material goods like clothes and diapers. At no cost to you, Moms.gov explains. There are thousands of crisis pregnancy centers across the country, around 2,500 according to a 2024 estimate from the Government Accountability Office. Many are Christian organizations, all try to keep people from having abortions. Staff are often volunteers who may or may not have medical training, and some wear scrubs or white coats and have clients fill out medical questionnaires. Many also offer free ultrasounds and tout the benefits of the test. It's important to rule out an ectopic pregnancy or a natural miscarriage and find out how far along you are via limited ultrasound, reads the website. Trouble getting weight loss drugs covered by insurance? Here's what to know. Trouble getting weight loss drugs covered by insurance. Here's what to know. Deborah Finley, 50 of Lodi, Caliph, says her weight started to worry her during the early days of COVID. That's when she noticed a lot of the people who were on ventilators or dying had something in common: obesity. It was a scary time, she says. As a single mom, she was afraid that I wouldn't be here for my daughter. Finley had been diagnosed with sleep apnea and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and she was pre-diabetic. Her pulmonologist suggested bariatric surgery but couldn't get Finley's insurer to cover it. She exercised and watched what she ate, but she wasn't losing weight and her mental health suffered. She remembers telling her doctor, "Look, I'm at 223 pounds. I feel like I'm hitting this wall. I don't know what else I can do." That's when he suggested Zepbound, a GLP-1 drug for obesity. Finley says she still had to put in a lot of work to get healthy, but the drug helped. Her sleep apnea improved dramatically. She lost weight. Then her insurance plan stopped covering Zepbound for weight loss at the end of last year. That has become common because GLP-1 drugs are expensive for health plans. Opinion: how I used public radio to recruit 20,000 participants for a peer-reviewed study on walking breaks. Journalists don't usually appear in the byline of peer-reviewed scientific papers. But recently, I received an email I'd been waiting on for nearly 3 years. A prestigious journal had accepted the findings from a study I helped lead with more than 20,000 participants across all 50 states. It was published Tuesday evening in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. My team at NPR had joined forces with physiologist Keith Diaz at Columbia University Medical Center to test his lab findings. Specifically, we invited people to try taking movement breaks every 30 minutes, every hour, or every 2 hours. Our goal was to test whether short walking breaks, which have been shown to offset some of the damage of our sedentary, screen-bound lives, were actually feasible out in the real world. You'd assume the news here are the data, and I'll get to those. But there's another important finding as well. At a moment when Americans don't trust health institutions, when wellness has metastasized into a multi-billion-dollar global industry of unverified promises, and when U.S. healthcare spending continues to roll toward $5 trillion a year, perhaps the most underused intervention we have is Stat plus Pharmalittle. We're reading about an FDA commissioner candidate, Germany's plans for drug prices, and more. Top of the morning to you. The middle of the week is upon us, and since you made it this far, why not forge ahead? After all, there is always light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. You never know what you may accomplish. So please join us as we celebrate this notion with a cup or 3 of delicious stimulation. Our choice today is pistachio. As always, you are welcome to join us. Meanwhile, we have assembled the latest menu of tidbits to help you along. So please dig in. Have a smashing day, and please feel free to forward any secrets you come across. Our in-basket is always open. White House policy aide Heidi Overton is among the final candidates being considered by the Trump administration to lead the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, Bloomberg News reports. No final decision has been made, though, and it is unclear whether Overton has the support of U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Overton is a deputy assistant to the president for domestic policy at the White House working on health issues. She previously worked at the think tank America First Policy Institute. Overton is a medical doctor and has a doctorate in clinical investigation from Joe. How to protect yourself from ticks. How to protect yourself from ticks. It's tick season, but how do you avoid the little arachnids? NPR asks 2 experts in tick bites and behavior. Accessibility links how to protect yourself from ticks. It's tick season, but how do you avoid the little arachnids? NPR asks 2 experts in tick bites and behavior. FDA finally analyzed its own youth tobacco data. Get your daily dose of health and medicine every weekday with Stats free newsletter morning rounds. Sign up here. Good morning. A lot of people had reactions, comments, and theories regarding Lizzie's story yesterday on the mystery patient who received retatrutide. What's undeniable, though, is the strength of Lizzie's reporting. FDA finally analyzed its own youth tobacco data last year. 7.2% of middle and high schoolers in the U.S. reported using any sort of tobacco product, according to newly analyzed federal survey data. That represents an overall decline from 2022, though interestingly, use of nicotine pouches among young people increased to 1.7%, compared to 1.4%. Vapes were the most popular tobacco product, with 5.2% of survey respondents reporting current use in 2025. Among young vape users, nearly 90% used flavored products, with fruit, candy, dessert, and other sweet flavors the most prominent. Despite the popularity of sweet flavors among young people, the FDA touted its recent approval of 4 flavored e-cigarette products as a mitigation strategy. We call on FDA to reverse its decision to authorize flavored e-cigarettes and nicotine pouches. Thomas Carr, the director O. Friends Matter and Family too. Friends matter and family, too. How close relationships help protect the health and well-being of today's youth. Posted June 24, 2026, reviewed by Lai Bai Ma. Overwhelming evidence supports the idea that healthy relationships are key to our health and well-being. The late eminent social psychologist Chris Peterson summed up the entire field of positive psychology in 3 words: other people matter. It's our close relationships that help us flourish. Not only do close, supportive connections feel good, but they are also good for us. They help buffer us from stress, support our immune system, and open our hearts and minds. Regardless of our age, we all need to feel that we have people who understand, appreciate, and accept us. It's not the quantity of our relationships, but the quality that matters most for our well-being. Having at least one close confidant, ideally a few, whom we can rely on no matter what is essential for our flourishing. Peterson reminded us of the importance of having 400 a.m. friends, people we can call in the middle of the night for any reason whatsoever. For today's youth, that idea is resonant, with youth mental health declining across the globe and lawn. Stat Plus, what an abandoned heart failure trial says about breakthrough devices that don't reach patients. It wasn't sure to be a slam dunk. By the time LivaNova launched a pivotal trial for its vagus nerve stimulator to treat heart failure in 2018, similar devices had shown mixed results. But the Food and Drug Administration had designated the device as a breakthrough, a label intended to speed promising technologies to patients with unmet needs. Maybe this would be the device to help heart failure patients when drugs weren't enough. Over the last decade, the FDA's Breakthrough Device Program has helped bring nearly 200 innovative products to the American market. LivaNova's vagus nerve stimulator, called VITARIA, wasn't going to be one of them. With the FDA's help, LivaNova and its investigators designed an adaptive trial that could help them act fast. The plan was to enroll patients 100 at a time. By judging progress at pre-specified checkpoints, the trial could stop early if data looked promising or dangerous. After enrolling 500 patients, half of the plan max, an independent data and safety monitoring committee in 2022 said the trial should continue. The signals weren't strong enough to indicate they were at a stopping point. This article is exclusive to Stat Plus subscribers on Lock. Want to feel happier at work? Take a 5-minute walk. Want to feel happier at work? Take a 5-minute walk, published whether it's responding to emails or taking video calls. So much of office life revolves around being planted on a chair. But the habit is damaging our health. Prolonged sitting can increase the risk, external of being overweight and developing heart disease and type 2 diabetes, say experts. While we know screen breaks are good for us, what's less clear is how often we should get up and move about while remaining productive at work. A new study, external, published by the British Journal of Sports Medicine, has found that taking 5-minute breaks, or movement snacks, every hour is the best and most feasible way to boost well-being without losing efficiency. Boost in productivity, mood, and alertness. Lead researcher Keith Diaz told BBC News that most adults now spend 3/4 of their waking day sedentary. While general advice to sit less and move more is correct, people need to know what dose, he added. The good news is that a walk break every hour for 5 minutes is enough to improve mood and lower fatigue, and people found this realistic and attainable, Diaz said. The study by Columbia University survey. Stat Plus, ophthalmology venture grabs investors' attention, raises $330 million. A startup developing treatments for eye diseases has raised $330 million from investors as it readies for late-stage testing. Allen Biosciences is about to begin a Phase 3 trial of a treatment for both diabetic macular edema and wet age-related macular degeneration. The conditions affect millions of Americans and can lead to vision loss. Ahead of the trial, Allen told Stat it had raised the Series B funding from an assortment of established biotech investors, a pension fund, and even crossover investors, a breed of private investors who will take a stake in a company shortly before it moves over to the stock market. TCGX and Arch Venture Partners co-led the funding round, which was one of the largest Series B rounds for a biotech company in the last 2 years. This article is exclusive to Stat Plus subscribers. Unlock this article, plus daily coverage and analysis of the biotech sector, by subscribing to Stat Plus. Already have an account? Log in. Red Cross volunteers work to combat heat-related deaths at Phoenix mobile homes. Red Cross volunteers work to combat heat-related deaths at Phoenix mobile homes. Red Cross volunteers work to combat heat-related deaths at Phoenix mobile homes in Phoenix, Arizona. A disproportionate number of indoor heat-related deaths happen in mobile homes. Red Cross volunteers are working to change that. JUANASUMMERS host. Extreme heat kills hundreds of people in and around Phoenix, Arizona every year. When those deaths occur indoors, nearly a quarter of the time they're in mobile homes. Mobile homes make up only 5% of area housing. From member station KJZZ, Catherine Davis-Young reports on why that risk is so high. SOUNDBITE of doorbell CHIMING. Unidentified volunteer 1, hello, hello. Unidentified volunteer 2, hi. It's Red Cross. KATHERINE Davis-Young, byline. It's a sunny Saturday morning and volunteers with the American Red Cross are knocking on doors in a Phoenix mobile home park. Unidentified volunteer 2, we just want to make sure you stay hydrated, check on a neighbor, and know that there's cooling centers nearby. Davis-Young, the Red Cross often provides relief after fires or hurricanes. But in this case, they're here to respond to heat, says Edgar Olivo, CEO for TH. Opinion, new human embryo editing advances require tough conversations on ethical boundaries. What if you could precisely change the genome of a pre-implantation human embryo and then safely use that embryo to try to generate a healthier person? It's a wild idea, but one that technology over the past decade has steadily made a bit less fantastical, at least practically speaking. But even as CRISPR gene editing research has advanced, including exciting work reported in a new preprint on base editing of human embryos from geneticist Dieter Egly's lab at Columbia, the same tough ethical questions remain. Some are opposed even to strictly lab-based human embryo editing with no intent for reproductive applications. In addition, bioethicists quickly raised concerns about possible future implications of the new study. While Egly was quoted as saying that scientists like him provide the data, and there you stop, and let others take over the discussion, I disagree. We scientists need to be deeply involved in the discussions. I don't support a ban on laboratory gene editing of human embryos like the Egly research, but I've long argued for at least a temporary moratorium on heritable human gene editing while a wide range of people, including scientists and the public, establish a probe. Stat Plus want high-quality generic drugs. One expert has ideas on how consumers can trust their supply. For many years, generic drugs have accounted for roughly 90% of the prescriptions doled out to Americans thanks to their lower cost. Yet reliable supplies have been an issue due to inconsistent quality. More than 60% of the generic shortages have been attributed to quality concerns, according to the Food and Drug Administration. Numerous manufacturers, many based in India, have been cited for violating manufacturing protocols that led to product recalls, and sometimes bans on sending drugs to the U.S. But Kevin Shulman, a professor and deputy director of the Clinical Excellence Research Center at the Stanford University School of Medicine, believes a solution is within reach. Shulman, who has also worked with an independent lab called Valiger that found impurities in some widely used medicines, argues the FDA should encourage testing by independent accredited laboratories. We recently spoke with him about the subject. This is an edited version of our conversation. This article is exclusive to Stat Plus subscribers. Unlock this article, plus in-depth analysis, newsletters, premium events, and news alerts. Already have an account? Log. A letter sent by worried staff shows why maternity care is still failing too many families. A letter sent by worried staff shows why maternity care is still failing too many families. Published in November 2018, health bosses in Nottingham were told there was a crisis in our maternity services. A letter, signed by more than 50 staff at the Queen's Medical Center, warned mistakes will be inevitable if problems weren't addressed. They told bosses of chronic understaffing, a scarcity of critical safety equipment, and a dire lack of leadership. But management reaction to the letter was inadequate, its author told me recently. It was effectively ignored. Wednesday's review of maternity services in Nottingham external reveals the shocking extent of the mistakes made. Hundreds of mothers and babies suffered potentially avoidable harm or died due to deeply embedded, systemic failures. It is the fourth maternity review in little over a decade. All were heralded as being never-again moments. But what happened to that letter goes to the heart of why maternity care in England is viewed as failing too many families. It had been sent to the chairman of the Nottingham University Hospitals Trust, as well as the chief executive, the medical director, and the head of midwifery. A look at the science that's been lost on long COVID. A look at the science that's been lost on long COVID since President Trump took office. Hundreds of experts advising on science and research issues have been dismissed. One committee was on long COVID, an issue that doctors are desperate for help with. Scott DETROW, host. Every year, the government recruits some of the brightest experts and advocates in their fields to work in a largely volunteer program advising federal agencies on science and research. But the Trump administration has dismissed hundreds of these experts from their committees. NPR's Keisha Riddle looked closely at the science that has been lost on one urgent issue. KATIA Riddle byline. A turning point for Nesha McCrae was her 30th birthday. She had COVID, and that day, she realized she wasn't recovering nearly as fast as other people. NETIA-MCCRAY? On my birthday, it dawned on me when I woke up and couldn't breathe for the 5th week in a row, this is a signal this is going to be with me for a little bit longer. Riddle. That was 6 years ago. She's still suffering now from long COVID fatigue, heart palpitations, shortness of breath. She's one of 14 people, doctors, patients, other experts, and advocates, who 8 things to know about the gut microbiome and keeping yours healthy. 8 things to know about the gut microbiome and keeping yours healthy in the world of wellness and health content. Few areas of our anatomy attract more interest lately and specious claims than the gut microbiome. This vast ecosystem of bacteria and microorganisms within our intestines shapes our health in profound ways that go well beyond digesting food, affecting our immune system, mood, cognition, metabolism, and much more. Life Kit, should I take a probiotic? And other gut questions answered, should I take a probiotic? And other gut questions answered, but public awareness of the microbiome's central role in our well-being has also given rise to a market of advice givers and products playing up the idea that we need to constantly test, reset, or somehow optimize this network of bugs inside us. Gut researchers say, in many cases, what's being promoted has leapfrogged the evidence. Here's what some of the leading scientists in the field want you to know. 1. A healthy gut microbiome is still hard to define. It's a fundamental challenge for the field. In healthy people, the specific makeup of the gut microbiome can vary considerably based on geography, lifestyle, diet, genetics. Stat Plus, FDA drops enforcement against Whoop after it tweaks blood pressure feature. The Food and Drug Administration quietly told wearable maker Whoop last week that it would not take further enforcement action over a controversial feature that gives users a reading of their blood pressure. In July 2025, the agency warned Whoop for releasing its blood pressure insights feature without clearance, saying it was a medical device that required review. The product is intended to provide a measurement or estimation of a user's blood pressure, which is inherently associated with the diagnosis of hypo and hypertension, the agency wrote. Whoop countered that the feature could be released without review because it was intended for wellness purposes and not to diagnose or treat a disease. We won't let regulatory overreach dictate how people access their own health data, CEO Will Ahmed wrote at the time. This article is exclusive to Stat Plus subscribers. Unlock this article and get additional analysis of the technologies disrupting health care by subscribing to Stat Plus. Already have an account? Log in. Justice Department announces hundreds of charges in multi-billion-dollar healthcare fraud crackdown. Washington. The Justice Department on Tuesday announced criminal charges against 455 people as part of a 2-week healthcare fraud crackdown that officials say involved more than $6.5 billion in false claims submitted to insurers. Among those charged is a nurse practitioner accused in Texas of billing Medicaid for medically unnecessary wound care procedures and using the proceeds for fancy jewelry and luxury cars. A mental health company owner who prosecutors say exploited the homeless by billing for crisis stabilization services they did not need. And a hospice owner alleged to have paid kickbacks to a funeral home employee for information about Medicare beneficiaries. A heart doctor is charged in Florida in an $89 million health care fraud scheme, accused of billing insurers for medically unnecessary cardiovascular screening tests for college student athletes, and then rubber-stamping the results as normal without reviewing them. Jason Finkelstein, 53, faces charges in Florida of health care fraud and conspiracy in what prosecutors describe as a years-long scheme that preyed on the fears of athletes that they could die on playing fields or courts of sudden cardiac arrest. Athlete. Stat Plus, Lilly's retatrutide has been offered to a single person via compassionate use program. Want to stay on top of the science and politics driving biotech today? Sign up to get our biotech newsletter in your inbox. Good morning. As you go about your day today, may you have the confidence of Brian Johnson and the self-awareness of Elizabeth Holmes, or whoever is behind Holmes' X account. Lilly granted one person extraordinary access to its next-gen drug. Eli Lilly and the FDA have allowed one person to receive the pharma company's highly promising obesity candidate through the agency's compassionate use program. My colleague Lizzie Lawrence exclusively reports. This article is exclusive to Stat Plus subscribers. Unlock this article, plus in-depth analysis, newsletters, premium events, and news alerts. Already have an account? Log in. That's all for this news briefing. Thanks for listening. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.